Hey, it's another Beatles fan, and come on, what an exciting time. It's the most excited I've been regarding Beatles stuff since 2020, of course. And it's Paul McCartney's new album. It's called The Boys of Dungeon Lane. I believe that's the name. And I gotta tell you, it's not the most ear catching name. I've had a hard time remembering it, but it's already grown on me after I learned what it meant, and I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about that later because I want to discuss some things previous to that. Of course, I'm incredibly hyped. I'm super excited. You should be too. It's Paul McCartney. He is 84, isn't he? Yeah, he's 83, and he's releasing a new album after 6 years. It's been the longest time since Paul's released a new album, and that kind of makes me angry. You know what, Paul? Just give us more stuff. I wasn't there to hype Band on the Run or to be hyped about Venus and Mars or the Beatles stuff, of course. Not even my favorite albums from later years like Flaming Pie and Chaos and Creation. So please, Paul, just give us more music, right? I think that's the general vibe. It's my vibe, of course, but it's the vibe I'm getting from people around the internet. The initial buzz, even though it's a very Beatles-centric, Beatle fan, Beatlemania-centric buzz. Before I get into the new album and what we already know, what I think will happen, I want to get into that too. Before that, though, I need to talk about McCartney 3. McCartney 3 is the last Paul McCartney record available. At least at that time, I love this photo. It's grown on me. I'm not that keen on the cover art, even though it looks okay. I wish it was better, actually. I love this collage in here, this photo collage. It has Paul's dogs, Paul in studio with his wife, with the bass. You know, this was during pandemic, so it's something that really helped me out during the pandemic times. It was a especially hard time and stressful time for me. Anyway, you should listen to this record. I think, of course, I'm not gonna talk about Paul being mainstream anymore. I'm pretty sure this record got into #1 on the charts, but Paul's not mainstream anymore. His music isn't mainstream anymore, so I won't even get into that. What I want to discuss really is how there are some great gems in here, and people shouldn't, Paul McCartney, Beatles fans, they shouldn't overlook this. Please don't overlook this. Of course, The Kiss of Venus is the best song on the album. There's also Find My Way and Pretty Boys. These would be my top 3. Very close to these are, in my opinion, the first single, Find My Way. I love that. It's such a catchy tune, really. There's also Deep Deep Feeling. It's the more experimental of them all, and I love that. All of them are pretty great, pretty incredible, really. There's also When Winter Comes, which is an older Paul song, and you know, he started out this project with When Winter Comes, which is a song he recorded during the Flaming Pie days. And this is the original recording in here. It's the Flaming Pie era recording. He hasn't re-recorded that. And this is interesting because now we segue 6 years later, which has been a long time. Again, come on, Paul, just give us new music. But now we have something called The Boys of Dungeon Lane. Again, I have to think about the title still. What do we already know? We have 2, actually 3, 4 things we already know for a fact. Number 1, Paul started posting about little blackbird emojis, right? Then Mike McCartney all of a sudden just tweeted out, here's our kid's new album. He calls Paul our kid. He's our kid's new album. It's called The Boys of Dungeon Lane. And he posted a picture of some signs that they put up in Liverpool. We know this is the album title because we have found the website, and the website has a plaque like the Liverpool street signs, with an L24, which is speaks postal code, I think L24, just like Ringo's Dingo is Liverpool 8, right? And it's, the sign says the boys of Dungeon Lane, and I didn't know what the hell Dungeon Lane was up to that point. Then Paul posted a photo in which you could reply to the blackbird with a blackbird emoji, and he would send you a link on Instagram. I'm not sure if he did that on any other social media, but he would send you a link of a web page with a video, and this video is of a cafeteria called the Dungeon Lane Cafeteria, and it included some shots of said cafeteria, but also in the wall there's plenty of pictures of young Paul. This will all come together, I swear. Also, Paul McCartney was seen with Paul Mescal, who will play Paul McCartney in the new movies, going into this cafeteria. So, speculation time now. I'm pretty sure this will be the video clip for the single, and I think, continuing with the speculation, that the album will come out on Thursday. Will be announced on Thursday, tomorrow. I'm recording this Wednesday night here in Brazil, and I think the new single will come out on Friday. Why do I think that? Well, it's what people are speculating online, but also because Paul's playing 2 gigs at the Fonda Theater in LA, I think. It's in California. I'm not sure if it's LA or... No, it's LA, right? It's LA. It's in Hollywood. So it makes sense for him to debut the single before this first gig in 2026. And just a quick parenthesis here, I hope this gig has a different set list from the Got Back tour. I don't want Paul to go on with the Got Back tour anymore. This is a totally 100% selfish take, just because I've been to 5 of Paul's Got Back tour gigs, and I want something new. That's just me. I'm sorry. Alright, so what is that? That's everything we know so far. I've included the speculation. There's also some speculation about the producer. I forgot the producer's name now. I'm so sorry about that. But it's the guy who produced the latest Stones record, Andrew Watt. I'm pretty sure it's Andrew Watt or Andrew Wyatt. I think it's Andrew Watt. Anyway, it seems to be Andrew Watt. I know most Rolling Stones fans like this record. If you are a Stones fan, let me know down below what do you think of that. I've listened to it once or twice. I like the song that Paul plays on it. It's called Angry, but I gotta be honest, I don't really care too much for it. It's an okay song. The only cool thing about it is that it's Paul McCartney playing bass on a Stones record, to be honest. It's a fuzz bass too, so that's cool. Paul doesn't do that pretty often. And I know people like that album, but I know people also have an issue with its brick walling quality. And I hope it's well produced, of course. We can only speculate, but I hope it's well produced. I don't think some of Paul's newer stuff has been well produced. Paul himself has produced McCartney 3, and I think to great effect, because Paul's production on the McCartney records is a layer in itself. Of those more homemade feeling records, that you can't give that up with a McCartney 3 or a McCartney series record. But on this one, I'm excited for it. I hope it turns out well. I really do. Of course, I'm super excited. But, before we end this video, and I'm pretty sure, again, the album's gonna be announced tomorrow, it doesn't make a lot of sense for Paul to announce stuff on Friday. Usually, these announcements come on Tuesdays, I believe. I'm sorry, on Thursdays. Tomorrow's a Thursday, not a Tuesday. So, before I end this video, though, I just gotta give you maybe what you're coming here for, which is why this record's called The Boys of Dungeon Lane. And maybe I should have done this before, at the start of the video, but I went looking for answers because I didn't know. And the answer lies on a song called In Liverpool. Have you heard this song by Paul McCartney before? Please let me know down here. He has recorded this song in 1988. And I'm gonna read you guys all about it on this book, Music as Ideas by Luca Brasi. This is what I'm using for storing the book page where I'm gonna read it off. But I hadn't heard that before, so the first thing I did was I went to YouTube and I listened to In Liverpool by Paul McCartney. I think it's a good track. I don't like the verses that much. Something about the melody just doesn't feel as strong as most Paul McCartney tracks, but the chorus is amazing. The chorus is incredible. You should definitely give it a listen before he releases the album, because the record is called The Boys of Dungeon Lane, but there's a line, the Boys of Dungeon Lane. This is a line on a verse in the song. So it's taken directly from there. I have no doubt in my mind that it will be a song released on the album, maybe even the lead single on Friday or when it gets released. So I also try to search for answers on this book, which is Paul McCartney's The Stories Behind the Songs by Mike Evans. This is a book given by my uncle, and it's a great book because it goes through each album and kind of tells you the rough story. It's more of a quick breeze through album if you want to really you don't want to dive too deep into an era. But of course, Paul McCartney Music as Ideas is the top one, I think, Paul companion book when it comes to archive stuff, right? Really getting into the nitty gritty of it. And I got lucky because Luca Brasi has released Paul McCartney Music as Ideas Volume 2. I don't have this one yet, and this one goes from 1970 to 89. And this was recorded in 1980, so it's almost at the end of the book. So I did get lucky. What I'm gonna read about the song In Liverpool is something I didn't know existed. I'd never heard the song before again. And it's off the Flowers in the Dirt era. That's at least how he puts it in here. So without further ado, Luca Brasi mentions that In Liverpool was recorded on the 2nd of August 1988 at LIPA, the Liverpool Institute High School for Boys. Actually, it was still the Liverpool Institute. So let's hear what Luca has to say about this song because it's extremely interesting. Alright. Around the mid-80s, McCartney discovered that his old school, the Liverpool Institute High School for Boys, was in a state of deterioration, at that point abandoned and unused. Paul took its fate to heart and financed its rebirth as the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, opened by the Queen on the 7th of June 1996, so around 8 years after the fact that this song had been recorded, right? It took 7 years and cost $20 million. And by bucks, I mean actually pounds, not dollars. Still today, Paul is involved with LIPA through annual songwriting mentoring sessions to selected students. He also goes to their graduation. It's extremely fun to yearly take a look at Paul coming back to Liverpool and going to LIPA. It's a fun time. We always see that happening, and I've read people that study there mention Paul's mentorship classes. I mean, what can you say about that, right? It's Paul McCartney giving you a mentorship. It's incredible, really. Let's continue, shall we? Alright, so in the summer of '88, McCartney went to visit the school. Footage from this visit that took place on the 2nd of August is included in Ghosts from the Past, released in 2004 as a bonus DVD to Liverpool Oratorio. So Liverpool Oratorio was an orchestra thing he did in 2004, and so he recorded it in 1988, but only released it in 2004. That's interesting in itself, right? That's something interesting in itself, I think. All right, so this Goes from the Past video and footage shows him walking around the building and telling anecdotes from the days in the classroom with his teachers. It's a touching documentary that ends with the performance of In Liverpool, a nostalgic reenactment of the youth spent by Paul in his hometown. So that's where it comes from. Again, I never heard that before. I knew from somewhere, maybe Paul McCartney music, the McCartney Legacy, I think. Maybe through that, or maybe the tune-in books. I'd heard that I'd heard this Lipa story that Paul went to the Liverpool Institute to tell stories. I knew that, but I didn't know about the In Liverpool song that closes the documentary off. Alright, so taped in the auditorium with only an acoustic guitar, the song looks through a series of characters and episodes linked to McCartney's childhood memories. A man who's talking to himself, listing name of old comedians, the Pierhead, walking across Dungeon Lane, this is mentioned there, Prince the dog with one eye, and yada yada. A miserable portrait that tells of a laboring and working class Liverpool immersed in post-war misery, so different from the colorful and effervescent gallery of Penny Lane. This is a masterful analysis, I think, by Luca Perazzi. It's Paul talking about Liverpool, which he only did in Penny Lane. I think I can recall, on the top of my head, I can recall any other song he explicitly sings about Liverpool. I'm not sure if there's any, but it's more of an introspective, of a contemplating, and a more negative and maybe saddening song than the entirely optimistic Penny Lane and beautiful in its own way, right? To top things off, In Liverpool, the song was performed at the Liverpool Sound Concert, held on the 1st of June 2008 at Anfield Road Stadium to celebrate the city's year as the European capital of culture. So this doesn't make sense to me because I never heard that before, and I didn't know Paul had played that song there, and there's apparently no recording footage or audio or anything to that kind. So I'm really looking forward to listening to the new version of In Liverpool. I hope it grows on me. The chorus caught me instantly, but I gotta be honest, the verses just don't do it for me, at least not in the way they're played by Paul. So you know what, let's see what happens. I don't think there's been any more to this story so far. I'm extremely excited, and I really do hope that we see news tomorrow. Maybe we'll get the announcement tomorrow. What do you think, guys? I've talked for too long. What do you think? It's great being here. Before I go, I gotta mention Dungeon Lane is near Speak, where Paul went. I'm not sure if I mentioned that on this video because I recorded a separate video. But what's ironic is that it was demolished. A part of it was demolished. And the whole thing about bird watching too, right? Paul loves bird watching, and he mentioned that he had a book, I believe it was called The Great Book of British Birds, of UK Birds, something like that. And he mentioned going through the woods near his home in Speak, which of course is a different home from his more famous one. The McCartney family home in, forgot what the neighborhood's called. Anyway, So the bird emoji, everything really lines up. What do you guys think? Please let me know down here. Thank you so much.